we're on Chaf Hamad Beis still. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Today is Vav Iyar. Today is the 21st day of the Omer. We're learning Daf Chaf Aleph. We left off yesterday. Chaf Hamad Beis. We are 12 lines from the bottom of the page by the two dots. Yesh lo zchus. You see?
Yes, we do.
So now we had in the Mishnah, we were speaking about the zchus. If a woman has merits and she drinks the water and she was guilty, so the merits will cause her to live longer. And our Mishnah said guys, we learned about this earlier in the Masechta. It didn't say that she's just going to be off the hook for longer, but it said that she'll slowly be dying. She'll live for another 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, all depending on the amount of zchus that she has. So that was the Mishnah. It said 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. Now, says the Gemara, Yesh lo zchus ha'isachulu. So mani masnifin. Who does our Mishnah go according to? Our Mishnah is Loy Abba Yossi ben Chanan, does not follow the opinion of Abba Yossi ben Chanan. Veloy Rabbi Elazar ben Yitzchak, can't be Rabbi Elazar ben Yitzchak. Ish Kfar Dorim, the man of the village of the south. Veloy Rabbi Yishmael, and it can't be Rabbi Yishmael. All these three opinions all argue with our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. These three opinions are going to say that zchus is less than that. The Tanya, we have a brisa that says like this: Im yesh lo zchus, if she has zchus, if the woman has merits, so toilala, it'll hang for her, which means that it'll prolong her punishment. She won't get punished right away. She won't die right away. And we have a three-way machlekes on how long that is. So, the first opinion is going to be the opinion of Divrei Abba Yossi ben Chanan. Abba Yossi ben Chanan says that the zchus, that the merit that the woman has, keeps her alive for an extra 3 months. How come? Because since the Torah says in Parsha Sotah, in Parakeh, Pasuk Lamed, Pasuk Chavches, that if the woman was not defiled, that she was innocent, Utahirahi, she's pure, V'niksa, she will be free, V'nizra Azara, and she will conceive seed. She's going to have children. So that's really talking about a woman who's totally innocent. But these three Tanoim are using the Pasuk as a reference, not only that, but for if a woman has zchus. It's a hint to a woman who has zchus in this parsha, which if she has zchus, she'll be kept alive the amount of time of a nixov and Israel Zara. It doesn't say it clearly. Clearly, it's talking about a woman who's innocent. But the hint over here is to a woman who is guilty, but she has zchus, and the amount of time of her to have to bear seed, to conceive a child. So how long is that? So according to Abba Yossi ben Chanan, that's 3 months, because it's Kidei Akaras Ubar. The amount of time it takes from when a woman conceives until she's noticeably pregnant is 3 months. So those 3 months is the amount of time that the zchus keeps her alive. Then Rabbi Elazar ben Tzadok, Ish Kfar Darim, Rabbi Elazar ben Tzadok, the man of the village of the south, he said, or the village was called Darum. So he says, Tes Chodashim, it's 9 months. He learns V'niksav and Israel Zara, that she's going to have children, that she actually has to have a child. The amount of time, at least, for her to have a child. Shnamar, it says in the pasuk, V'niksav and Israel Zara, for her to conceive and have children. And in another pasuk, it says that what does it mean, children? According to the first opinion of Abba Yossi ben Chanan, children doesn't mean physically that they were born. It just means that she was noticeably pregnant with children. But Rabbi Elazar ben Yitzchak says that it has to be that she has to have a real child. And how do you know? Where do we see that the word zera for children means that they have to be real babies that were actually born? It says a pasuk in Tehillim and pasuk in Parak Chav Beis, zera yavdanu, his seed will serve him. Yisupar, they will be told of Hashem, or they'll speak about Hashem, which means that it has to be an actual person when he comes out into the ear of the world, which he has the ability to speak, even though a baby obviously can't speak. But someone who has bekoyach, a fetus is not a living thing yet. Once the baby is born, so he's considered a person, and a person by nature is able to speak. So it has to be old enough to be able to speak. So that's tes chodashim, 9 months for a full-term pregnancy. Zera haroy l'saper, children that are able to speak. Rabbi Shmuel says that was the first two opinions. Rabbi Shmuel says no, shnei masar chodesh. It is 12 months, and we're gonna answer the question that our Mishnah doesn't go not according to any of these three opinions. Rabbi Shmuel in the end is going to be the one that our Mishnah goes according to. Rabbi Shmuel says that the zchus helps her for 12 months. And how does he know this? I don't have a clear proof for the matter. However, I have a hint. What's the hint? Here's a pasuk in Daniel and Perek Dalet. So Daniel was one of the smart guys in Yerushalayim, and he was a young bacher, and he lived during the time of the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash. But the thing is, he wasn't in Yerushalayim for the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash. He lived in Yerushalayim, and Nebuchadnezzar came, I think, 14 years before the actual destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash. Nebuchadnezzar was the one that destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. He took all the wise men from Yerushalayim and brought them to Babel, and he took Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, these 4 tzaddikim. He brought them into his staff, and they were his advisors. And there's a story with Daniel with the lions. Then, but that's a different story for a different time. Over here, who?
Daniel.
That's not. We're talking about Daniel. Daniel's a different guy. Daniel never came back to Eretz Yisrael. Daniel died in Babel. He's buried in Babel. They have a burial for him over there. Adei Mazeh. So you have Daniel, Hanan, Mishael, and Azariah. So Nebuchadnezzar, he was a very big Rasha. He was a wicked guy, and he at one point put up a massive statue. Yossi. He put up a massive statue of himself, and he said that everyone's got to bow down to this, and anyone who doesn't bow down to the statue is going to be thrown into a fiery furnace. And there was some of his guards, whatever, when certain instruments play, the kids are. One of his guards who was jealous of Yehuda, one of his guards who was jealous of Hanani, Mishael, Azariah, snitched to Nebuchadnezzar, and he said that these 3 Jews are not bowing down. So he looked into it, and he saw that they weren't bowing down. He threw Hanani, Mishael, Azariah into the fiery furnace, and the miracle was they came out untouched. And then Nebuchadnezzar sent out a letter, and he recognized that the Eibishter is the true God, whatever. However, afterwards, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream that there was a very tall tree that was going all the way up to the heavens, and it had a lot of shade, and it had a lot of leaves, and there was animals under it, and it was all great. And then a malach came down from heaven, chopped down the tree, and he said, this tree is going to be a little stump over here in the forest, and it's going to be living together with the animals and the beasts for 7 years. And Nebuchadnezzar has this dream, and he's very frightened. He calls all the advisors and the interpreters, and no one can give him an interpretation until he calls Daniel, and Daniel tells him, your dream means that you, Nebuchadnezzar, are going to turn into an animal for 7 years, and you're going to be living with all the beasts of the field. And the tree was you, because you were so haughty and you thought that you were the coolest guy, that you could put up a statue of yourself and everyone should bow down to it. And so now Nebuchadnezzar is very scared. He's going to turn into an animal. So this is what Daniel tells him. Lehein Malka, Malki Yishbar Allah. He says, O king, let my words be pleasing unto you. This is Daniel is written in Aramaic, half of the Sefer. It starts, the middle of the book of Daniel is in Aramaic. So you have a big sin, and you're going to get a big punishment, but to redeem yourself, you should do charity, tzedakah. And your iniquities, b'mechan anion, should be with being gracious to the poor, turning to Daf Chafalaf Amud Aleph. Hein, this doing tzedakah and kindness, being kind to people that aren't as lucky as you. Hein teve arka l'sheil. This will elongate your peace, meaning you're still going to get punished, but it's going to delay the punishment. And how long is it going to delay it? Uksiv, the pasuk says that when after the whole story, Nebuchadnezzar sent out a letter, and he writes that kula mata Nebuchadnezzar, all these things of him turning into an animal, it all came upon Nebuchadnezzar, Malka, the king. Uksiv, and it says that it happened at the end of 12 months. After his dream, there was 12 months. So Nebuchadnezzar listened to Daniel. He did tzedakah and chesed. He was kind to people. Sit down. You get a Gemara. And he was able to elongate his punishment by 12 months. And that's where Rabbi Shmuel learns a zecher, a hint. We're going to see why it's only a hint, that the zchus works for 12 months. Guys, if you're going to talk, go out. And guys, take Gemaras. Let's go. Okay. So what are we saying? We're saying like this: the 3 opinions in our brisa, which is Rabbi Yosef ben Chanor, Rabbi Elazar ben Yitzchak, and Rabbi Shmuel, all argue with the Mishnah. The Mishnah said it could be 1, 2, or 3 years. The max amount of time was Rabbi Shmuel, who says that it's 1 year. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel. Really, our Mishnah is Rabbi Shmuel, and Rabbi Shmuel, said that it's only 1 year, 12 months. So Ashkachra, he found another pasuk after this brisa where he said that it works for 12 months. He found another pasuk that made it up to 3 years. That the Omar, he said, Vitani, he taught like this. It says in the pasuk, Koi Amar Hashem, a pasuk in Amos. The Amos, the beginning of Amos, that's the wrong volume. That's the right volume. The beginning of Amos is basically a lot of nevuahs about how all the nations are going to get destroyed. And it starts, and the style that he uses is he says, Koi Amar Hashem, so says Hashem, Al Shleisha Pishay Edom. For the 3 sins of Edom, I was able to bear. However, the 4th sin that they did, I have to punish them. So Hashem is able to bear punishment up to 3 times. So they did these 3 big sins. And what Rabbi Shmuel is learning, he says like this: the prolonging of a sin for zchus is 12 months, and Hashem only punishes the guy after 3 sins. So you have 3 sins. Each one is 12 months. 12 months times 3 is 3 years. So Rabbi Yishmael holds that it could be up to 3 years. Okay, so now we have beautiful. We fit the brisa with the Mishnah. So now now going back to the brisa, Rabbi Yishmael said that even though I don't have a clear proof that it's 12 months, but I have a hint to it. Why is it only a hint? Why is that not a good proof? The pasuk in Daniel looks beautiful. So says the Gemara that Dilma Shani Evdekachavim, maybe idol worshippers, maybe by Goyim it works differently. Delay Mifkidina Alayu, because Hashem doesn't judge them so right away, like Yidden, like we learned earlier in the Masechta, that by Goyim, Hashem lets their sins accumulate, and then in one moment he knocks them off their feet, or he punishes them in this world and the next world. Yidden, Hashem was kind that every little thing we do wrong, so Hashem punishes us right away. So we get little punishments for every little thing we do. So a goy, it could be the schus could work for 3 years because Hashem's waiting 3 years, but maybe by Yid it'll work quicker. So Rabbi Yishmael says, I can't resolve that problem for you, but I could give you a hint that it could take 3 years from the story of Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was a goy, so either it works or it doesn't. Okay, now we're by the 2 dots, Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph, the first set of 2 dots. The Mishnah said that you can have a schus that lasts already for 3 years. So now, ask the Gemara, schus demai. What schus could this woman have that could keep her alive for 3 years? If you're going to tell me that it's the schus of learning Torah, if she taka learned Torah, it's good that she learned Torah, but she wasn't commanded to learn Torah. The mitzvah to learn Torah is on men, not on women. So, and the rule is that anyone who is obligated to do something, the Torah says that he has to do it, and he does it, he gets more reward than someone who is not obligated to do it. Why? Because someone who's obligated to do something, Hashem also gives him a Yetzer Hara to not want to do that thing, and when he does it anyway, so he's overcoming the Yetzer Hara and he gets more reward for it. Someone who's not commanded to do it doesn't have that Yetzer Hara, so they don't get as much reward. So a woman who learns Torah doesn't get as much reward as a man. So why would schus wait for 3 years for a woman learning Torah? So says the Gemara, Elo schus the mitzvah. So obviously it's not schus of Torah, it's schus of doing mitzvahs. So 1 second, ask the Gemara, schus the mitzvah mi magna kulei hai? Could the schus of a mitzvah, could the merit of a mitzvah really guard a person that much? Behatanya, we have a brisa that says like this: Azu darash of Menachem bar Yosi. The following was what Menachem bar Yosi darshaned. He darshaned the pasuk in Mishlei Perek Vav. He says like this: Ki ner mitzvah v'Torah or. The pasuk says that mitzvah is a candle and Torah is light. Talakas was a mitzvah b'ner. The Torah connected the pasuk connects mitzvahs to candles. That a mitzvah is compared to a candle. V'sa Torah b'or, and Torah is like daylight. And why? As a mitzvah b'ner, the Torah connects a mitzvah to a candle to tell you that just like a candle only guards you for a little bit, it can only shield you for a little bit, it only gives off light until the candle goes out. So af mitzvah so too a mitzvah only guards a person for a certain amount of time. That schus could go away. The Torah is compared to light, the daylight, to tell you that just like ma'or megan lo'elam, so just like daylight is going to last forever. There's always daylight every single day. So too Torah guards a person forever. It shields him forever. And another pasuk also in Mishlei, it says it says that when you go, it's going to accompany you. When you lie down, tishmar alecha, it's going to guard you, and when you wake up, it'll also guard you. So we're going to darshan the pasuk like this. We're talking about Torah. When you're walking, it's going to lead you. That's in this world, that the Torah accompanies a person always. When you lie down, it'll guard you. That's after a person dies. And when you wake up, that's going to be your words. So that's talking about when you wake up is lost in in the future, after Mashiach comes, after Tchias HaMesim, the Torah that a person learned is still going to be guarding him. So the merit of Torah lasts forever. What are we trying to bring out? We're trying to bring out that a mitzvah's guarding is much less than Torah. So how is a woman being able to be kept alive for 3 years just for the schus of a mitzvah? And now we bring a mashal. Mashal adam, a parable to a person who is walking in the pitch black darkness at night. And if you think about it, in the olden days where there was no lights at all, there was no synthetic light. So at night it was totally dark. It was similar to if you close yourself in a room and you turn off the lights and there's no light coming in from outside where you mamish can't see anything. So a person, your eyes can get used to very, very little. If it's mamish pitch black, you really can't see much. It gets you, but you can't see clearly at all. It's very, very hard to see. Okay, whatever. You could obviously see a little bit if the guy's walking.
Like there's people that lived in a cave, and they got used to it.
Good. but they were able to see like it was day, or it was very hard to see.
It's hard to see, but
They got used to being hard to see. Whatever. Either way,
and then like
the mushal still gonna work. I promise you.
after the war, they like couldn't see anything.
Okay, good. The mushal still works.
The
Believe me.
light was blinding them.
So let's continue. The second wide line. So a guy is walking in pitch black, va'afela, and it's thick darkness. And he's scared of bumping into thorns. And falling into a pothole. And and from thistles, also things that could attach themselves to his clothes and rip his clothes. And what else is he scared of? From dangerous animals that could come out of nowhere and attack him. And from robbers that could come out of nowhere and attack him. And not only that, he has no idea where he's walking. He doesn't know what road he's on. He can't see any road signs. He doesn't know where he is. So then, if he gets a torch, so first of all, if he gets a torch now that he has in his hand, so he's going to be saved from thorns because he can see right in front of him. He's going to be saved from potholes because he can see right in front of him. And from thistles. However, but he's still scared of wild animals because wild animals lurk around at night. And from robbers who also lurk around at night. And also, he also has no idea what road he's on because he can't see exactly where he is. You need to see all around you. So, however, the moment that dawn breaks, now it starts getting, the daylight starts coming out. So first of all, he's not only saved from all those things, he's saved from the wild animals who go away during the day, and from robbers who also go away at day. However, he still has no idea where he's walking. He doesn't know which road he's on. He's lost. So then once he hits the fork in the road and he sees the road signs, then he's saved from everything. All these problems he had, he has nothing. If it's during the day and he has a fork in the road, he's good to go. So what's the mashal? The mashal is that the candle, the torch, is the mitzvah, which only guards him from a little bit, and the daylight is Torah, which guards him from everything. And the Parshas Drachim, which we're going to explain later, the fork in the road, mamish saves him from everything, and it lets him know where he is. So we're going to see what that is later. Okay, so that's a mashal that we just brought in this brisa. Davar achar, another explanation, another way that you explain the strength of Torah over mitzvahs. Avera mechabe mitzvah, and avera, if a person does a mitzvah and then he does an avera, the avera can extinguish the mitzvah, it could outweigh the mitzvah that he did. But in avera mechabe Torah, however, an avera can never outweigh the Torah that he learned. Remember, like it says in the pasuk in Shir Hashirim, Mayim Rabim, many waters, lo yuchlu l'chabes ha'ava, cannot extinguish the love. However many waters, however many averas a person can do, it doesn't extinguish, it can't take away from the love, which is the Torah that he learned. Okay, we're going to have to unpack all these statements in a minute. So, Amar Rav Yosef says, Azoi, Be'idna mitzvah, a mitzvah, be'idna da'asik ba, at the time that he's doing the mitzvah, at the actual moment while he's doing a mitzvah. So, magna u'matzla. Magna means that it shields him, and matzla means it saves him. Magna, shielding, means it shields him from punishments, from different things that different punishments that Hashem could throw at him, different hardships in life. And matzla is saving him from doing averis. So when a person is doing a mitzvah, it protects him from punishment, and it saves him from doing an avera. When a person's not doing a mitzvah, so agune magna, the mitzvahs that he did in the past, they will still protect him from punishment. However, it doesn't save him from doing sins. He can still fall into sin. Torah, however, whether he's learning it now or whether he's not learning it now, it's magna umatzla. It saves him from punishment and it saves him from sin. And it makes a lot of sense because Torah is more of an intellectual thing. And when a person learns Torah, so it's stuck in his head, and it stays with him forever. Right? If you remember the Torah that you learned, it'll always stay with you. It always has a constant effect on you, not only when you're actually learning. Mashenken a mitzvah, which is an action. An action is the most external part of us, so it's just something that you're doing with your physical hands. So when you're not doing a mitzvah, it has no effect on you. So now, Maskefla Rabba asks Rav Yosef, if you're going to tell me that Torah, whether you're doing it or whether you're not learning Torah, it saves you from punishment and it saves you from sinning. So Doeg Vachi Teufel, me ask you about Torah. I have a shaila. There's two big guys in Tanakh in the book of Shmuel Beis. Doeg is Shmuel Aleph, Teufel Shmuel Beis. Doeg was the advisor of King Shaul. We learned about both of these guys earlier in the Masechta and Perek Aleph. Doeg was King Shaul's advisor, and he snitched on David for getting the Lechem HaParim from what was the guy's name? From Avyasar HaKohen. You guys remember this? We learned this together. And not from Avyasar, from Avyasar's father, who was like Achi something, I forgot. And he was trying to run away from Shaul, and he snitched to David, to Shaul, and Shaul came and wiped out a whole city of Kohanim, the whole Neivir HaKohanim. And it was all because Doeg was jealous of David, and he snitched on him. So that's one case of Doeg. And Doeg was the Reish Sanhedrin. We learned he was the head of the Sanhedrin, so he was a big Talmid Chacham. He for sure learned Torah. Achitophel was also a big Talmud Chacham, and he was David's teacher. We have this in Pirkei Avos and Perek Vav. However, he was David's advisor, and then when Avshalom rebelled against David, which we learned all about in Perek Aleph, Achitophel went to Avshalom, and he helped Avshalom, and he fought against David. So that was also something wrong. So these two guys, and he ended up committing suicide. He had a very sad ending. So Doeg and Achitophel, these two, they were Rishonim. They did these terrible things, but they were big Talmidei Chachamim. So what you said that when you learn Torah, even after you finish learning Torah, it still saves you from sin. So Amai Le'yigina Alai, why did it not protect them from sinning? So Elamar Rava, so Rava says like this. Torah, you have to, he takes it down a notch. Torah, when you learn Torah, B'idino the Asikba, when you're learning Torah, Magna Umatzla. It saves you from punishment and it protects you from sin. B'idino the Loy Asikba, when you're not learning Torah, so Agune Magna, they'll still save you from punishment, however, Atzule Le Matzla, but it doesn't save you from sinning. Mitzvah, doing mitzvahs, B'im B'idino the Asikba, B'im B'idino the Loy Asikba, whether you're doing it right now or you're not doing it right now, Agune Magna, it will save you from sin. It will save you from punishment. However, Atzule Le Matzla will not save you from sinning. So they're almost the same. The only difference in the details is that by Torah, while a person is learning Torah, he's not going to sin. Mashenke by mitzvahs, while a person is doing a mitzvah, he could still sin. So what comes out from this whole entire sugya? First of all, we're learning the greatness of learning Torah. That since Torah is something that becomes a part of the person, a person learns it, and if he does it right and he applies it to his life, so it'll become a part of you, and it'll save you from sinning, and it'll save you from punishment more than mitzvahs, because mitzvahs are much more of a physical thing. Obviously, mitzvahs are important, but we're learning the greatness of learning Torah. And the other thing that comes out is that the zchus of mitzvah is significantly lesser than the zchus of Torah. So how are we saying that the zchus of Torah, that the zchus of mitzvah can keep a Sotah alive for 3 more years? So Ravina says you misunderstood the whole thing. La'olam zchus de Torah. Really, why is the Sotah able to stay alive for an extra 3 years? It's the zchus of learning Torah. With the Kamra Dana Mitzvah, she's not commanded to learn Torah, so why is she getting rewarded for it? So Nihi de Pakude like Mifkida, she's not commanded to learn Torah herself. Her Torah is not her learning Torah. However, Ba'agra, in the reward of the Makrin Umasni and Benayu, that she provides for her kids to go learn Tanakh and to learn Mishnayos, and V'natron Lehu Gavrayu. Add the Asumi Beit Midrash, and they wait for their husbands to come back from the base Midrash. They give their husbands the space to learn Torah, which they are commanded to learn Torah. So that's chos. Milay Palga and Ba'adayu. Will they not get rewarded for that? Of course they get rewarded for that. And that reward, just supporting Torah, is such a great chos that it'll keep her alive for 3 years from the Sotah waters. Okay, so now good. That sugya is put to rest. Now we have to go back to something that we mentioned in the Brisa, in the mashal of the guy walking in the middle of the night. And we said that when he has a torch, which is mitzvah, he is saved from the potholes and from the thistles. And when he has the light of day, he's saved, which is Torah. He's saved from listim, which is punishment, and from the chayara and from sins. However, we said that when he gets to the fork in the road, he's saved from everything, and including the fact that he knows exactly where he is. He knows which road he's on. So in the nimshal, my parshas drachim. What's this fork in the road that we're talking about in life? So Amar Rav Chisda says Zet Talmud Chacham v'Yem Misa. Very simple. This is a Talmud Chacham on the day that he dies. Before a Talmud Chacham dies, he never knows. Maybe one day he'll have a change of heart and he'll go in the wrong path. So he doesn't know which path he's on. He doesn't know if he's in the straight path altogether. The day he dies, if he knows that he was keeping the Torah and learning Torah his whole life, then on the day he dies, he'll know, I was on the right path my whole life. So he knows which path he was on, retroactively. So that's a very simple answer. Rav Nachman Yitzchak says, Zet Talmud Chacham v'Yiraschet. It's not a Talmud Chacham when he dies. It's a Talmud Chacham who studies Torah enough that he acquires fear of sin. So if he has this midah of Yiraschet, of fear of sin, he knows that he's never going to sin. He knows that he's on the right path. Mar Zutra says that Talmud Chacham this is the Talmud Chacham that his learning is so great that the halacha is decided according to him. And if his learning is so great that the halacha is decided according to him, this guy is never going to leave the base medrash. He's going to spend his whole life over there, and he could rest assured that his entire life he's on the right path. Okay. Davar acher, another explanation, which we learned, right, quoting again from that brisa, that avera mechaba mitzvah. Avera is able to extinguish a mitzvah. Ve'en avera mechaba Torah. Avera, however, cannot extinguish Torah. Amar Rav Yosef said that Darshe Rav Menachem Bar Yosi lahai kra kisinai. Rav Menachem Bar Yosi explained this pasuk to explain this Indian of Kiner Mitzvah V'Torah or and B'Salach Chatan Cha'isach that the Maim Ram Lo Yichulu Chabes Zava. He explained this pasuk Maim Ram Lo Yichulu Chabes Zava that Averis cannot extinguish Torah. He explained it like he received it from Har Sinai. It's a beautiful explanation. And says Rav Yosef Ilmali Darshua Deig Vachitefel. If Deig and Achitefel would have known this explanation, Hachi Lo Yirotvu Basar David. They would have never chased after David and given David a miserable time, because they would have realized that their Averis. One second. Let's keep reading. They would have never chased after David. Chsiv, like it says in the pasuk in Tehillim, in Parakai and Aleph, where David is talking about those that were oppressing him. And he says that Lamor, they say that that they say that Hashem abandoned David. They thought that Hashem abandoned David. Why do they think Hashem abandoned David? My Darush. It says in Parshas Kisei, say that the Shekhinah is only going to rest amongst the Eden if there's no nakedness, if there's no abominations going on. And they thought that David HaMelech, who sinned with Bathsheba, that because of that, even though he learned a lot of Torah, Hashem left him because he sinned with Bathsheba. And it says in Parshas Kisei that the Shekhinah can't rest when there's promiscuity. So but they didn't realize that Avera Mechaba Mitzvah, that Avera could extinguish a mitzvah. However, and Avera can never extinguish Torah. And since David HaMelech was a Torah scholar, he was a Talmud Chacham, he learned a lot of Torah. So however, whatever Avera he did, it can never extinguish the Torah that he learned. So they and Achitefel didn't realize that. If they would have known that David's Torah still stands, even though he did an Avera, they would have never chased after. Okay, so that was the pasuk Maim Rabim. Now continuing in that pasuk, the pasuk says that many waters can extinguish the love, and if a person will give all of his money for love, people are going to scorn him, they're going to mock him. Why? Because love is a feeling. You can't buy love with money. You can buy physical things with money, but love is a spiritual thing. So you can't buy it with money. You have to earn love. You have to deserve love. So So if a person gives all of his money for love, which in our context is going to be Torah, we're darshaning Torah, they're going to scorn him. So what does this mean that they're going to scorn him? So says the Gemara, Amar Ula said that Loiki Shimon Achi Azariah. This pasuk is not talking about Shimon, the brother of Azariah. Who is Shimon, the brother of Azariah? The first Mishnah in Zvachim quotes a Tana Shimon Achi Azariah. He's called Shimon, the brother of Azariah. Why is he called by his brother's name? Why not Shimon ben whatever his father's name was? Because they had a deal that Azariah said he was rich, and he said, I'm going to support you and you learn Torah. And Shimon learned Torah and he became a Tana. Not like there was a guy Yochanan who used to support the Nasi's household in order that they could learn Torah. And Ella, so what's this pasuk talking about? Hillel v'Shevna, the relationship between Hillel, the great Tana Hillel, and his brother Shevna. Why? Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael, and he told us like this: that Hillel v'Shevna achi havu. Hillel and Shevna were brothers, and Hillel asak b'Torah. Hillel learned Torah. Shevna avad iska. Shevna did business, and he supported Hillel. However, L'Soif, in the end of their whole arrangement, Amar Le, Shevna came to Hillel and he told him, now let's get together and let's split the reward. You get half the reward and I'll get half the reward. I supported you. You wouldn't have been able to learn Torah without me. Yatza Baskal v'Amra, Baskal came out and said, if a person gives all of his money away for love, people are going to mock him because you can't buy love with money. What's the nimshal? Shevna thought that he could buy the zchus of Torah by just supporting his brother Hillel. Says the Baskal, no, it doesn't work like that. You could support Torah, it's a beautiful thing, and you'll get rewarded for that. However, the reward is only going to come if you learn Torah also yourself. You have to at least learn Torah according to your capabilities. Shevna thought that I'll get off the hook from learning Torah because my brother Hillel is learning Torah for me. Said the Baskal, that's not how it works. If you want to support Torah, supporting Torah is a beautiful thing, and it's a great thing to do, and you can only receive the reward for that if you learn Torah yourself also, because then it shows that you value Torah. Turning to Daf Chafalaf Amud Beis. Okay, now back to the Mishnah, referencing back to the Mishnah. Emer Ben Azai said that a man has to teach his daughter Torah, yes. That a man is obligated to teach his daughter Torah, so that if she sees a Sotah, doesn't die, she'll know that it's this chos. Good. Then Rabbi Lezer said, "Kol melamed is bitay Torah, melamda tiflos." Anyone that teaches his daughter Torah, he's teaching her promiscuity. So what's going on? So tiflos al-gadaitach, he's partially teaching her promiscuity. That's not true. The Torah doesn't teach you how to be promiscuous. The Torah is whatever. The Torah is laws and the Torah Shabbat Peh. Where in the Torah do you see that he's teaching her promiscuity? So Ella Ema, so you have to amend the Mishnah like we had our Girsa in the beginning, that ki ilu limda tiflos. It's as if he taught her promiscuity. And how come? Am Rabbi Bo, my time with Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Bo says, what's the reasoning of Rabbi Lezer? Why is teaching Torah like teaching her promiscuity? It says in the pasuk in Mishlei, Ani Chachma, I wisdom, says the Torah. I am wisdom, Shachanti are my rest, I dwell with cunningness. Cunningness is this sharpness. So it teaches you that once a person becomes smart, he gets wisdom. He gets cunningness in him, and he has the ability to do terrible things with it. Virabanan. However, Ben Azai, how does he darshan that pasuk? Hi ani chachma my avdile. What do they do with this pasuk? Ani chachma shachanti arma. He doesn't hold that he's teaching her promiscuity. Like we explained before, that since a woman's not obligated to learn Torah, so Ben Azai, so Rabbi Lezer says he shouldn't teach her Torah because it could lead to negative things, and if it has potential to lead to a negative thing because of her sharpness that the Torah is going to bring to, so it's better to stay away from it. And we spoke at the Chassam Sefer. We have a full Amud left. We spoke at the Chassam Sefer. Look inside the Gemara. Take a Gemara and you'll follow along. So we learned the Chassam Sefer who spoke about that in contemporary days. Ayin Sham. Okay, so what does Ben Azai do with the pasuk? Ani chachma shachanti arma. Obviously, he doesn't hold that Torah is going to lead to promiscuity, guys, because he said that a man is obligated to teach his daughter Torah. So he uses ani chachma shachanti arma according to the explanation of Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina. Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina said that ein divrei Torah miskayim ela b'misha mamed atzmai aram aleihen. The Torah is only able to be preserved in someone that lets himself become naked over them, which means someone who's ready to give his life for Torah, even if it means that he's going to be totally poor and he won't be able to afford clothing. That's the pasuk. Ani chachma shachanti arma. Arma really means cunningness and sharpness, but he's touching it arma milashan arum milashan nakedness. That Torah is only able to rest in a person if he gives himself over completely, that he would let himself become naked over them. Shenemar ani chachma shachanti arma. Okay, so therefore he doesn't hold of the explanation of what's it called, of Rabbi Lezer, and he says that you could teach your daughter Torah. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Ein divrei Torah miskayim ela b'misha mesim atzmai kemisha enoi." Torah is only preserved in someone that makes himself as if he doesn't exist, someone who's humble. Shenamar, like it says in the pasuk, "V'achachma me'ayin timatzei." We learned this also in Perek Aleph, where in Eov it's saying, "Where can we find wisdom?" Me'ayin, from where? But we're teaching me'ayin means from nothingness. Hachachma, wisdom, me'ayin timatzei. You can find it in a person who considers himself nothing, someone who disregards himself in the pursuit of learning Torah. Rabbi Yeshua, then we had Rabbi Yeshua who said in the Mishnah, and the Girsa of the Gemara was a little bit different than the Girsa in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah, the way we learned it yesterday, was amended to the way the Gemara explains it. So the Mishnah said, Roitza Isha bekav tiflus yoser mitisha kav and prisha. So a woman would rather one kav of intimacy than 9 kavim of abstinence, which doesn't make any sense, right? 1 kav of intimacy over 9 kavim of abstinence. So we have to include a letter. So my kamar, what's he trying to say? So haki kamar, this is what the Mishnah means to say. Raitza isha bekav vid tiflos. A woman would rather 1 kav of food and have tiflos and have intimacy, have a relationship with her husband, mitisha imoy with him, mitisha kavim of precious, than 9 kavim of food and precious and abstinence. And like we explained before, Rashi says that a woman would rather her husband be a camel driver, which a camel driver stays in the city. Camels can't travel that far, so he's around her, he's next to her, he's able to be with her. However, he doesn't make that much money. She would rather that than him be a camel driver. Sorry. She would rather her husband be a donkey driver, a chamar, which stays in the city because donkeys can't travel that far. And he makes less money, but he's able to be with her than to be a camel driver who travels and comes back every 30 days and can only be with her every 30 days, which is a very reasonable desire. Okay. Then we said he used to say, Rabbi Yeshua used to say, Chassid Shaita Chulu, we had 4 things. A stupid chassid, a stupid pious person, a Rasha Arum, which is a cunning Rasha, a smart Rasha, a sharp Rasha, a woman who is abstinent, Isha Prusha, a woman who's very ascetic, and a Makis Prushan, the hits, the Yisurim, the self-inflicted punishments that these ascetics do. These 4 Chavra, they are destroying the world. They ruin the world. So we're going to start going through these one by one. We're going to do 2 of them today, 2 of them tomorrow. So chassid shaita. First of all, a stupid chassid. Hey, chidami chassid shaita. What does it mean, a stupid chassid? Kigoyin. This refers to the katava itza benara. It's a case which is something similar. So you have a woman who's drowning in the river. The Amar, and the guy, this chassid, is walking by the river, and he says to himself, Lav eirach ara listakule bavatzula. I'm a chassid. I'm not looking at girls. I'm not going to go touch this girl to go get her out of the river. So he refrains from saving this woman's life because he's so pious. So this is called the stupid chassid, because obviously piety doesn't. In this case, piety is to go save this woman's life, not to go and be too frum about it. So that's chassid shaitan. Hechidami Rasha, or what's a cunning Rasha? This sharp Rasha. So Rabbi Yochanan says that Amatim Dvarav L'Dayan Kodim Sheyavei Baldin. It's someone who tells a judge his side of the story before the other guy comes. You're not allowed to. It says in the Torah, you can't have a false, you can't accept a false testimony, which means someone who's when you have two litigants and you're only hearing one of their sides first, even though you're going to hear the other guy's story also, but if the guy's not in the room, the other litigant is not scared to lie. Right? Baldin A, Reuven and Shimon are coming to court. If Shimon's not in court, Reuven's not scared to embellish his story a little bit. If Shimon's sitting right there, he's going to have to say the truth in front of the dine, or at least he'll be more prone to say the truth. So someone who says his opinion without the other guy there, he's a Rasha Arum. Rababo says that on the wide lines now of Chafal Famud Beis. He says that what's it referring to? We spoke about this in Iyun. Someone that gives one zuz to a poor person in order to get him to have 200 zuz. Why? The Tan, we have a Mishnah Mesachas Peah that Mishi Yesh Le'Masayim Zuz Lo Yito Leket Shikho Peah. The Torah says that there's gifts that go to the poor person. Leket Shikho Peah, in the person's field. Leket is the stocks that fall. That if it's one or two stocks, you have to leave it for poor people. Shikha is if you forgot one or two bundles in the field, you leave it for poor people. Peah is the edge of your field, you have to leave to the poor people. You can't cut it. So there you have to leave it to the poor people. Meiser Ani, the 10% that goes to a poor person in year 3 and 6 of the Shemitah cycle, that only goes to a poor person. What defines a poor person? So a poor person is only someone that has less than 200 zuz. And the remes for that is that tzedakah, the gematria of tzedakah is 199. And someone who has 199 zuz or less is someone who is eligible to receive tzedakah. Once he has 200 zuz, he's not considered poor according to Allah, and he can't get tzedakah. So what happens if a guy gives this guy who has 199 zuz, he gives him one zuz? So that's a cunning Russia, because he knows that if I give him one zuz, he's not going to be able to collect leket shikla peh, and I can save the leket shikla peh for whoever I want to be able to collect it. So that, and if a person has 199 zuz, you could give him 1,000 zuz at one time, right? Because he was when you gave it to him, he was poor, and that's counted as tzedakah. But to give him one zuz, that'll just take him away from the status of being poor, and you're not helping anyone. I don't need the zuz. The poor person would rather have one less zuz and be able to collect tzedakah. And even if he's given 1,000 zuz at one time, 1,000 zuz worth of leket shikha he could take it. Okay, that's another Rasha Arum. Rabasi Yamar Rabbi Yechon, Rabasi says in the name of Rabbi Yechon that what's a Rasha Arum? It's someone who gives advice to sell minute property. What are we saying? That Amar Rabasi Yamar Rabbi Yechon, Rabasi said in the name of Rabbi Yechon that Yisoimim shekadmu machru b'nechasim u'atin masha machru machru. What are we referring to? The Torah says that that inheritance goes to the sons. That so if a person dies and he has a bunch of kids and he only has a little bit of property, we're talking about movable properties, or even real estate, I think. Any property, so it goes to the sons. The Chachamim established that daughters should be able, that before they get married, daughters should be able to be eligible to receive sustenance from the father's property when he died. And even if it means that the sons aren't going to get anything. So if the father was poor and he left them with very little, the daughters get it and the sons don't. Why? Because the Chachamim decided that it's better for sons, for the boys to go around begging by doorsteps, if that's what's going to have to happen, because they don't have any money. It's better for the boys to go around begging than to make the girls go around begging. So the halacha is that if a person only has a little bit, it goes to the daughters. However, that has to be after the assessment of Bezdin. Bezdin has to count how much money the guy has, and they have to decide where everything goes. They have to say this is all going to go to the daughters. Before that happens, according to Torah law, belongs to the sons. And if the sons are to sell that property before they go to Beis Din, the daughters aren't going to get anything, because midin Torah, the sons really own it. So the sons can sell it and their sale is valid. That's only before the Dayanim ruled that it goes to the girls. So if a guy gives Yisraelim advice and he says, listen, your father just died, he left very little. It's all going to go to your sisters. So quickly go sell all these things that you make the money off of it, and your sisters are going to have to beg. So that's a Rasha Arum, another a cunning Rasha, because he's smart. He knows this halacha and he's using the halacha to be a Rasha. Abai says he says that a Rasha Arum is someone that gives advice to sell nechasim, to sell property, according to what Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said. What's the case? Tanya, we have a brisa like this. Let's say you have three guys, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven owns something, and he gives it as a gift to Shimon, and he says, I'm giving this to you as a gift, but after you die, it's going to go to Levi. So a person is able to do that. He's able to give a temporary gift that this is yours for the rest of your lifetime, or this is yours for whatever, for 12 months, and after those 12 months are over, it's going to Levi. Okay, so a person can do that. And so we have a machlekes Rabbi and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. According to Rabbi, this arrangement, when Shimon has this thing that Reuven gave him, he is he doesn't really own it. Why? Because Reuben said, I'm giving this to you, but it's only for 12 months. So he doesn't actually have a full ownership of it. And if Shimon would, let's say, go and sell this property to someone else, so Levi can now come and take that property away from the buyers because it didn't really belong to Shimon. It wasn't Shimon's to sell. So he could take that property away from the buyers, and then the buyers go to Shimon and say, pay us back. You sold us this thing, and we didn't know that it doesn't really belong to you. So now Shimon's going to owe the buyers the money that they paid for it back. But Levi is able to go get it. Okay? So that's Rebbe's opinion. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says no. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says that during the time that Shimon has the property, he owns it fully. And if he sells it, it's sold, and Levi has no claim on it because it belonged to Shimon. It was his right to sell it. He wasn't allowed to because the arrangement was that it's going to go to Levi after, so it's not the right thing to do, but the sale is valid. So Azai, someone who, the Tanya, a guy says, my possessions are to you. Reuben says, these are for you, Shimon. And after you, Leplani, it's going to go to Levi. So V'yara the Risha, and now Shimon goes, Umachar, and he sells it, V'achal. And the buyer is eating the fruits. The buyer is benefiting from the property. So Hasheni Moitzi Miyad L'Kuches Rebbe. Rebbe says that Levi could go to the buyers and take the property back away from the buyers, and then the buyers go to Shimon to get their payment back. But Levi gets his property in the end. However, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Ein L'Sheni Al Mashashir Rishain. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says no. The Levi is only going to get what Shimon left over, which means that if Shimon sold the thing, it doesn't exist anymore for Levi to get it, because according to Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Shimon was a full owner and he has the rights to sell it. And someone who tells Shimon to go and sell this property, and then Levi's not going to get it, because I guess Shimon and Levi are in a fight, and he doesn't want Levi to get it, that's a Rasha Aram, because he knows the halacha, according to Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, and he's using the halacha in order to get his evil ways. Rav Yosef Bar Chama says that what's a Rasha Aram, a cunning Rasha? If someone who forces others to go in his path. He says, look at me, I'm such a tzaddik. You guys should follow my ways. And they don't know that this guy is really a big Rasha. On the inside, he's a Rasha. On the outside, he acts like a tzaddik, and he gets other people to follow him. And basically, he's doing it for his own ulterior motives. He wants people to think that he's a tzaddik so that he can get his way. And he tells people, look, I'm such a big tzaddik, follow my ways. But when really in the inside, he's a big Rasha. So he's someone who is inauthentic. His insides and his outsides don't align. Rabbi Zrika Amar Rav Huna, the last opinion. Second to last opinion. Rabbi Zrika said in the name of Rav Huna that Zeh HaMekel La'atzmai, someone who is mekel for himself. He's lenient. He rules leniently when it comes to himself. Umachmer Lacherim, but when other people ask him the halacha, he's machmer for them. You can't do that. If you're mekel to yourself, if you're someone who's mekel who finds that the halacha is lenient, that the halacha you should rule leniently, so you have to rule that for everyone. You can't be mekel for yourself and machmer for everyone else. If you're machmer for everyone else, you have to be mekel for yourself. Basically, practice what you preach. Ula Amar, the last one, Ula says that Zed, this is a person turning to Chav Beis Abad Aleph, Shekara V'Shana, he learned Tanakh, and he learned Mishnayos, he learned Halachos, V'Leishimesh Tamid Chachamim, but he didn't serve Tamid Chachamim, which means that he knows all the Halachos, but he doesn't know the reasonings behind the Halacha, because he never watched the real Rav applying these dinim in real life. And tomorrow in Daf Chav Beis, we're going to pick up on this thing, and we're going to have this whole sugya of someone who learns and he wasn't Mishamish Tamid Chachamim, he didn't finish his full ordination by spending time by a Talmud Chacham to see how to apply the halacha. That's a Rasha Arum, because he doesn't really know the halacha as well, and he's teaching people the wrong thing. We will continue tomorrow. Shachris.